Hey guys, what is up? This is Kian Golzari, and it is an honor to be here with you guys today at the Global Sources online show. I actually spoke at the last two Global Sources events in Hong Kong, and it was so much fun. I love coming to Global Sources to the trade show, speaking at the event as well. It's such a well organized event, headed up by Megla. Thanks so much for having me again. I'm really looking forward to presenting to you guys today. So I'm going to be talking all about how to source products from China, but in this unique and special time right now, during the lockdown, during the coronavirus, while travel is restricted to China, like what can we be doing? What do we need to be aware of what's happening in China? So I've got about 20 minutes to go over this with you guys. I've got about 27 slides, so I will try and get through this quickly. But if you feel like I missed anything, or if you want to talk in more detail, or if you want to connect with me, you can do so at the links below. On Facebook, I am Sourcing with Kian, and on Instagram, I am Kian_JG. And I've recently started a YouTube channel as well of the same name, Sourcing with Kian. So if you want any videos on sourcing, you can connect with me there as well. All right, guys, so let's dive into it. Here we go. So I just want to give you guys some quick context. If you haven't heard me speak before, these are just some of the companies and the brands that I've worked with, the Olympics, the United Nations, the NBA, a lot of retailers in the UK and the US as well, which has really shaped my mind in terms of the products which I can develop and the manufacturers that I work with. And as I said, we supplied the Olympics. So my brother was nominated to run with the Olympic torch when the Olympics was held in London in 2012. And when the torch came through Scotland, he got to run with it, which is really cool. And in the United Nations, when we got the contract with them, this was for 300,000 roll mats. And what was cool about this, it wasn't only just like product and price, but it was also speed to market and delivery time as well, which is super important. Then some of the products that we do for the NBA, it's more like home decor, it's like bedding, blankets, towels, and Steph Curry, who you see here, is actually a partner in our company as well. And as a result, he gives us stuff to post on social media, which he posts here, here, and here, which was awesome. And then this is me in the factory actually making the products as well, which if you've heard me speak before, I talk about in great detail about the importance of actually making your product yourself as well. As a result of working with Steph in the NBA, then we started working with Neymar, which was really cool. We did a lot of products with him around the World Cup, and then he posted that on his social media. And then here is me in the factory actually making the product as well. And I show all that to say that proximity is power. You know, you have to put yourself in the environment where you can actually perform your best work or achieve the results you want to achieve. So I've lived and worked in China for the past 10 years, and I knew that in order to achieve the best results for my business and for myself, that I had to put myself in that environment. And when I started working with the NBA and other athletes, I knew I had to move to America to put myself in proximity to those people. So I know it's a lot easier said than done, but one thing, if you are new to this business, I would really encourage getting yourselves out to China as soon as it's safe to do so to further advance your learning and just to see how things really happen over there. But I'm going to teach you today as much as possible about how we can sort of apply those things to our business. So this is a hot topic right now, coronavirus. How does that affect our sourcing? So let's dive into it, right? First of all, with supplier research, you have to be more diligent than you've ever been before, because bear in mind that like there's now like a lot of new sellers entering online, but as a result, there might be a lot of more Alibaba middlemen entering the market as well. And then also, you have to be very, very careful with payments because some factories might be in trouble. You know, some factories have been doing business for a long time, but the categories of which that they manufactured are no longer in demand now. Take travel luggage, for example. And China had three pretty big hits. The first one was the tariffs, the Trump tariffs at the end of last year. Then they had the Chinese New Year holiday, which is their downtime. And then as soon as they came out of Chinese New Year holiday, they had the virus, and they had the virus in China first, and then it had it around the world. So they've had three or four pretty big hits, which has affected their business. So this is not the time to be just sending large payments, big deposits for first orders. You really have to be very, very diligent in your research right now. And then what I would also do is check the location of the factory and make sure that they are okay. Check their proximity to Wuhan, see if they were close, and just see if if everything's fine, if everything's back to normal, that family members are okay, all that sort of stuff. It's nice to be nice. And then after that, it's if you are making payment, let's say you're using Alibaba, and I just say Alibaba, but there's also global sources as well. There's also other online websites, but if you are paying through these platforms, then you have to make sure you are using trade assurance to protect yourself based on the points I mentioned before, in terms of there might be some new entrants into the market, or there might be some factories that are in trouble. So you definitely want to be selecting trade assurance or have a letter of credit so that your bank guarantees the products that you're ordering, or even use like credit card protection as well. But just make sure your payments are protected if you're new. But if you already have like established business with established factories, you've been doing business for 5 or 10 years, that's fine. You can just pay as normal. But if you are making first orders, definitely be very, very careful. And then I say like make sure the factories are actually doing the same products. And this is important because a lot of factories had to pivot. So I was purchasing travel bags, and then the factories that I work with actually said, "Hey, we're now doing masks because a mask is essentially cut and sew, and a bag is cut and sew." But the demand for bags has gone way down, but the demand for masks just shot through the roof. So they knew they could stay profitable and stay busy and keep their workers busy if they pivoted to other products. So don't just assume that everyone's doing the same products. Think about the category, has your factory been affected, and then make sure they're still doing the same products. And then, as a result as well, are there products in demand right now based on the global situation? That's just another thought you have to consider, as well as can they still produce to the same capacity? Because a lot of the workers migrate home during the Chinese New Year holiday, but then after the Chinese New Year holidays when Corona really broke out in China, so a lot of them didn't return back to the original factory that they were working with, and also a lot of the factories' demand was down for those products for the reason I just said. So they might have had maybe 200 workers or 500 workers in their factory, but now they might only have like 50 workers. So don't just assume that, hey, if they were making 10,000 units a month before Chinese New Year, that they can still make that capacity and that volume. You definitely want to be double checking. And hey, like this is just kind of like things that you need to be mindful of, but a lot of suppliers that I'm talking to, like they are back to normal work, they are back to full capacity, things are going back to normal, and they are quite normal in China now. China's probably the most advanced in the world in terms of having dealt with this virus. So things are going back to normal, but this is just kind of like a checklist of things that you just want to consider before doing big business with any factories. And then here's a bit of an opportunity, right? So, when Corona first hit, as I said, it hit in China first, and a lot of companies around the world thought it would be contained within China and it wouldn't come out. So, a lot of people rushed to place orders to their Chinese factories, and then what? Because they were worried that okay, if we don't place our orders quickly, China might shut down. But then what happened was the rest of the world shut down, and then they realized they didn't need those big orders anymore. And then what happened was they started to cancel a lot of those orders. So a lot of factories that I know are actually holding on to a lot of stock for orders that were placed when Corona first hit, and now they aren't required anymore. And if they didn't actually produce the goods, but they still ordered the materials. So when talking to your manufacturers, you definitely want to be asking them what materials are you holding on in stock, what items have you got in stock, and there might be an opportunity for you to get those items at a clearance price, but you're never going to find out unless you ask. So definitely just ask them what they're holding in stock. And then if cash flow is a strain on your business, now is actually a very good time to ask for credit on your orders if you have a pre-existing relationship with your factory. Because if you have been doing business for several years, if your orders have kept growing, but you can say now, hey, as a result of Corona, the sales have started to slow down. We've had to invest more money into PPC. We've had to invest more money into advertising, into marketing, into influencer outreach, into building our team, into our websites, da 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 da. So if you can support us by giving us credit on our orders, we can still continue to order at the same capacity. So you can kind of use this as a good time to basically ask for credit on your orders if you haven't done so before. Then I would say don't place large orders. Don't rush to place large orders until you've checked the freight costs, because I'm sure as you're all aware, the air freight costs have massively spiked because there's a lot less commercial airlines in the air. And as a result, there's a lot less supply in the air. So as a result, the price increases, and air freight costs actually spiked, 4 or 5x. So don't be placing these large orders thinking that it's all going to come by air and it's going to be the same cost. Definitely double check your sea freight and your air freight costs before placing any large orders. And a company that I would recommend working with is one called Unicargo, UNI Cargo. And they're very, very good at sending products from China to USA, China to Europe, holding goods in your warehouse, sending them out into Amazon warehouses. So that's one to check out if you don't have a good forwarder already. And then something very, very interesting was that the Canton Fair went online on the 15th of June. And the Canton Fair is the biggest import-export exhibition in the world. And Global Sources event is actually in between phase 2 and phase 3 of the Canton Fair, something that we always attend every 6 months, which is a lot of fun. And as a result, future fairs have become uncertain. So we've got this great Global Sources online show as well. And I think we're going to see this a lot more often. We're going to see a lot more fairs going online. And because we don't know when we're going to come out of this situation. So that's just a way that now we have to source in the future. And I would also say that the relationships with your manufacturer are now going to be more important than they've ever been before, because like there's a lot of good things that come as a result of working in direct partnership with your manufacturer. And here are some of them here. So when you have a good relationship with your manufacturer, they'll always quite often offer you new products before they show it to the rest of the world, because you have a good relationship with them. They say like, hey, we just developed this new product. Would you be interested in trying it for your market? Do you want to put your brand on it? What do you think about this? Would you improve it in any way? They are very open to showing you what they're working on, because as we work on new products, so do they. And then also, like, whenever I visit a factory and I build up a relationship and I see the workers and I talk to all the managers and I meet the boss and we drink the tea, all that sort of stuff, they take greater care on your orders. And that's just like, that's so important. That's so big. It's not just, oh, hey, now they're making it with love. It's actually, well, because they take greater care on your orders, you're going to have less returns. Less returns, you're going to have better reviews, and and that's going to result in more market share. So it is very, very important to build those relationships with your manufacturers. As well as that, you build up trust as well, and then they'll give you better credit terms, as well as faster lead times if you require it. There have been times where I've called my manufacturer and said, look, I really, really need this order to go and it has to be ready in 45 days. Please do whatever you can. And they always find a way. And then you also push your items to the front of the production schedule if necessary, kind of what I said before. If imagine Amazon buyer A who's never been to China before and who just places their orders on Alibaba, and there's Amazon buyer B who's been to China, who's met the manufacturer. And hey, if you've never been to China before, you can still build that relationship by talking to your suppliers on WeChat, phoning them up, having face-to-face conversations over the phone, sharing what you did on your weekend, show pictures of your family, just build up that relationship. So you have that your relationship, which is very, very good, and the one who's only ever sourced through Alibaba and they've never had that face-to-face contact. If they get both orders at the same time and they have to decide which one to put to the front of the production schedule, there's always going to select you because you have that pre-existing relationship. So it is very, very important. And then as well as all that, they give you information on your on your competitors' buying habits. Like quite often, and I don't even ask for it, but I go to factories or I talk to factories and they're like, hey, by the way, these guys, this is what they're working on for next year. This is the color schemes that they're doing. This is the sizing that they're doing. This is a picture of their hang tag. And you get a lot of information and you never know if they're sharing your information as well. But it's good to know. I never ask for it, but if they offer it, that's as a result of our relationship because there's a lot of trust there. And then as well as that, they do give you nice gifts as well once we have a good relationship. So I actually made a YouTube video on, as I said, the channel's down below, Sourcing with Kian, and I made the 35-minute video about sourcing products during COVID-19. So that's what the thumbnail looks like. And if you want to look at that stuff in a little bit more detail, I have gone over it on YouTube, so feel free to check that out. And now I kind of want to go over, right, okay, what is the future of sourcing? What lies ahead? And I think most likely it's going to be some time before we can go back to China and travel. Yes, China is quite safe right now, but you have to go into a 14-day quarantine, self-quarantine when you get there, and then you have your trip, and then you probably have to go into quarantine when you come back. So it is a lot more challenging. There's also a lot less flights going there. And also there's just a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's around the corner. So it's not likely we're going to be back there anytime soon. So the first thing I would consider is, do you have a team over there, or do you have access to a team over there? Because you kind of need boots on the ground, in order to, whether you're happy for someone else to check your samples, whether you need someone else to develop your products, whether you need someone to do your inspections for you, depending on the size of your operation, it's always beneficial to have someone who has contacts in China. Otherwise, we're just going to be doing a lot of meetings by Zoom and just sending samples back and forth, which can be quite expensive. So I would say one thing is like, there's a lot of pros and cons of working with a sourcing agent, and I've made a YouTube video on that as well. But consider hiring a sourcing agent if sourcing is not something that you enjoy yourself. I always feel that the best benefits are from building that relationship yourself and getting a direct line of communication with the factory. But sourcing is a lot more challenging right now than it's ever been. So you might want to consider working with a sourcing agent. And then you also want to put in a lot more time discussing new ideas and new products with your suppliers as well. This is a very tricky time in that we can't visit. So if you can put in like schedule maybe weekly calls or bi-weekly calls or even monthly calls with your suppliers and explain the sort of stuff that you want to develop with them and lean on their experience, lean on the designers that they have in their office and let them recommend products to you as well. That's going to be very beneficial for you to stay ahead of the curve. And with more exhibitions going online, I don't know if you guys managed to experience the online Canton Fair, but it was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. They just did not navigate that fair very well. I think they really underestimated. We couldn't even like log in properly. We couldn't talk directly to manufacturers. It was a bit of a nightmare. So they definitely have to improve that. And currently we have this online Global Sources Fair, which is going to be awesome, I'm sure. A lot of hard work has gone into it. So I think this future will be a lot more online shows. So we'll see how it goes, and maybe that'll restrict or reduce the amount of need to go to China for travel, to visit factories. And then like now we have to consider, like, okay, what is the best way to develop products from home? And I feel that like now we have to go into a lot more detail as well. So if you haven't done so already, you definitely have to have specification sheets for your items. And I'll do a quick screen share example of one of those. But you can't leave any margin for error. You can't leave any stone unturned. You can't um, miss out any detail. And I'll go over that in the next slide. And then here's one more thing, is that you have to make sure you have all your products tested to industry and legal standards. And that's just not something like during COVID. It's just something we have to be doing all the time. But it's something that I've noticed that a lot of sellers are missing out on. They aren't testing their products. And you can use third-party QC companies like SGS, like Intertech, and then you can basically ask, okay, well, if it's an iPhone cable, then it needs to be tested to like legal standards so it doesn't blow up when you put it into charge. But if it's like a backpack, well, there will be industry standards, such as it needs to be like a certain amount of waterproofness, the zips don't break after 10 uses, stuff like that. But you're not expected to know all that sort of stuff. So contact these third-party companies and find out what your legal requirements and what your industry requirements for testing, and then test for those things. Because I know for sure Amazon is clamping down on that. I know people who are in like the home and kitchen and baby and beauty, and Amazon is asking these brands for testing certificates that they should have tested to, and they haven't got that, and then they remove them off sale until they can provide those certificates. So just check in with some third-party companies and get your products tested, and also ask your manufacturers what testing have they done, and they might be able to provide the certificates, but that's a certificate for someone else's product or someone else's brand, so that shows that they're capable of passing, but you want to make sure that now you can get your products passed. So sourcing agents. I'm going to go over this really, really quickly because some people use them, some people don't. But here's just a quick checklist. You want to know, are they a one-man show or are they a company? It's a lot safer if you work with a company, because if it's just one person doing your sourcing for you and they don't give you a line of communication from the factory, if that person gets hit by a bus tomorrow, you do not know where your goods are made. But if you work with a company, someone else can fill in. Hopefully that person doesn't get hit by a bus, but you know what I mean. You need to be working with an organization or a real company, not just a one man show or a one woman show. Number two, how many years have they been a sourcing agent? This is quite important because the quality of their work might depend on, okay, if they've been in the game for like 1 or 2 years, or have they been a sourcing agent for 10 years? Because, you know, this whole Amazon era of online sales is relatively new. You know, a lot of people have become very profitable in the last 4 or 5 years. And if they've just become a sourcing agent in the last 3 or 4 years, is that just because they're trying to make a margin from all these orders going through Amazon? Or is this what they were actually doing before? And is this actually what they're qualified in? And is this what is their expertise? And then, regardless if you work for a sourcing agent or not, you have to have a direct line of communication with the factory. And a lot of sourcing agents like to take that away from you because they're scared if you have a direct line of communication with the factory, you might cut the sourcing agent out. But it's the good sourcing agents will allow you a direct line of communication, because you have to know, like, if if you have issues with your products, if your goods are delayed, if they're not going to ship on time, if you need better payment terms, you have to be able to pick up the phone to a decision maker and be able to negotiate these things. The sourcing agent can act as a link, but you have to have a direct line of communication with where your goods are being made. And then you kind of want to ask your sourcing agent, what category of product do they really specialize in? Because, you know, a sourcing agent can kind of source anything for you, but they also have to specialize in something. Like the same sourcing agent who's doing electrical products can also source baby products the same way, and they can also source sport products the same way, and then, you know, whatever, bicycles, because they have to have experience in a certain category. They have to be sourcing certain products for a certain while, because you need to lean on their experience as well to be able to tell you this factory is good because, or this product might fail because. But if they're literally just taking something off the shelf, well, you could have done that yourself. So you want to ask them, what do you really specialize in? What's the categories that you specialize in? And then you kind of want to know, do you get paid up front, or is it a commission, or both? And do you also get paid by the factory? A lot of them don't like to say that they're getting paid by the factory, but they actually do. But it's just based on what your needs are and what your goals are. You want to basically understand if they're getting a commission on every order, so you might want to make it a low commission, or if it's just a one upfront payment and then after that there's no commission. So there's two main methods that they get paid. And then you also want to discuss with them what's the scope of your work, what's in your offering, because some sourcing agents will do quality control, They'll help you with shipment, they'll help you with samples, and some of them is just straight sourcing. So when you're paying them this upfront fee or this commission, you want to know what's involved in that. And then finally, you also want to ask what is your process for vetting factories? Because if they're just buying from like Alibaba, if they're just going there, well, you could have done that yourself. But if they have relationships with factories, if they go in and vet them, if they have a wide network already built up, you want to know that information before selecting who you want to work with. And then this was just on product certificates, which I went over. I think I'm actually running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to breeze over this super quickly. But that's kind of what I was talking about before. That you just need to be, you have to know what certificates you require for your product, which you can reach out to companies like Intertek, BV, and SGS, and definitely get your products tested. Then this is just a screen share of the specification sheet, which I think if you don't have one already, you definitely have to incorporate one into your business. And you have to have this for all your products basically if you are getting multiple quotes. And here's the thing, this is a nice little spec sheet for a backpack which I developed, and it's got a lot of information, and on the top it's got the tabs like the fabrics, the colors, the bill of materials, the design, the construction, all the comments, all that sort of stuff. But this might be a lot of work, but it's not something you have to do. If you want to have something like this, you can tell the factory, hey, can you send me your full specification sheet for this item? And then when you get that spec sheet, you just delete their company logo on the top, you add your company logo, add any changes you want to make to it, PDF it, and then you send that to different factories. But it's so important to send the same information to all the different factories so they can all quote like for like. And then product testing, it's so important. A lot of people don't talk about it, a lot of people don't do it. But this is the outdoor brand Highlander. When I was making a new backpack, I was climbing in it. The image on the left is in Scotland, beautiful place. I'm actually in Scotland right now in lockdown, so if anyone wants to come through, hit me up. No, the image on the right is San Diego, and then here another couple of images from Scotland as well. And the beautiful thing is that like you have to be able to test your product yourself. You have to know that you're bringing something to market, which you know it's fit for purpose. There's too many people who just buy a product on one website and sell it on another website, but you have to actually know yourself that this product is fit for purpose, and it's not just a like it was a tent, so I'm going to sleep in it. It's even if it's something as basic as a coffee mug, you have to drink 5 hot cups of tea or 5 hot cups of coffee in one day from the same mug to make sure the handle doesn't fall off, to make sure the paint doesn't chip, all that sort of stuff. And then once you've tested it, you can also pass it on to the third-party QC companies, which I talked about. And then you can also pass it to an influencer and get them to test it as well. So they feel a part of the product development process. So when you ask them to post it later on and they get their affiliate commission or link or whatever, they also felt like they were involved in the development and the making of that product. You can also lean on them for some advice as well. And then this is a travel bag, which I was supposed to launch earlier this year, which did not happen. It will be next year. But I was testing the product in the extreme temperatures in Dubai, and then also in extremely cold temperatures with the same product, with the same sample, snowboarding in the mountains in Italy. So I know myself that the buckles and the zips do not break in cold temperatures and they do not melt in hot temperatures. I know that with the same sample. You have to be putting your products through the same type of testing as well before you bring it to market. So let's talk really quickly about online platforms. So there is Alibaba, there is Global Sources. I don't like 1688 because that's a domestic Chinese website. And quite often people will find cheaper prices there, but they find cheaper prices because they aren't capable of passing all this like testing that we require for the Western world. So I wouldn't personally use that website, but I know some people do. Um, when using Alibaba and Global Sources, I'm going to go over this really quickly because I'm actually think I'm probably over on time, so apologies for that. You can see in the bottom right corner, there's a little icon called 7 Alibaba Sourcing Hacks. I've also made a YouTube video on this, which is about 25 minutes, which goes step by step into detail of everything you need to know for purchasing products through Alibaba or through a platform like that at this time. I'm going to go over it like very, very quickly right here. When you use a platform like Alibaba or Global Sources, you're trying to find the right suppliers, the good suppliers to work with, not find the right price, not negotiate MOQ, because that stuff comes later once we found the right supplier. But on a website like Alibaba, you can get any price that you want because they'll give you any price just to get your order. And then once you get that low price, you'll find out problems later on in the production process. So you're using this platform to find the good suppliers, and then the price negotiation comes later. So to filter that, you just basically select trade assurance and verified, so you know that you have that safety net, and also that the verified is basically just the factory is who they say they are. Like Alibaba have checked that they have the number of workers they say they do, they have the number of machines that they say they do. So you just have that peace of mind and confidence. And I would also look at the factories and say, I need to be doing business with someone who's been in this for a minimum of 5 years. Because as I said before, you don't want any trading companies or factories which are new into the game or new into Alibaba. Like a lot of I mean, I've been using Alibaba for more than 10 years. So there are many factories which have been there for a very long time. And those are sort of ones you should be leaning on. And you also, on the left side, you can, first of all, actually, when you go onto it, you can type what you're looking for, but you select, it's automatically defaulted to products, but then we switch it to suppliers. On the left side, you can also select like certificates that they have. ISO 9001 is a quality system, ISO 14001 is an environmental system, and then you have BSCI, which is the what is it, social compliance initiative or something like that. But any factories which have these certificates are capable of manufacturing to a very high standard for some very big brands or some very big retailers. So that really narrows down your factories as well, because you might start looking for something like blue light blocking glasses, and there might be over 5,000 suppliers. But after you tick these boxes, you'll narrow it down to like maybe 90 suppliers, which is a lot easier to go through. And then you want to look at the product categories that the supplier has listed on their page, because if it's something like a massage gun, you want to see like, okay, it's just massage guns or like vibration products or something like that. But if you see that they do massage guns, but then they also do walking poles, and then they also do like leather gloves, and then fidget spinners, you just know that that particular company is just supplying hot items, so they're not actually a specialist in one item. So when you click on the factory profile, click on the product categories, and just make sure they're all consistent in the category that you're purchasing. And then also look at their address, because there's a difference between working for a trading company and a factory. And if you want to work directly for a factory, then just make sure their address is somewhat in an industrial zone and not on the 29th floor of some skyrise building in downtown Shanghai, because then you know you're working with an office rather than working with a factory. And you can check those addresses on their profile, but also when they provide certification as well, you can click on those documents and see the address of the factory as well. And then a lot of people are scared of copycats, and they're scared of suppliers who might copy their products or copy their ideas. And for that, I would just say the best thing you can do is design register your product in your market, because a lot of people think their factory is going to copy their product, but actually um, it could be your competitor who takes your product, who buys your product and sends it to another factory and they copy it. So the best way you can safeguard it is if you design, register, or patent protect, whether it's a design patent or a utility patent, in your home market. So if anyone ever does copy your product, it doesn't matter if it's your competitor, if it's your factory, or if it's another factory, you can always just say, you can always take those products off sale because you've registered it in your home market. So that's one thing you can really protect yourself on. And as I said, that video is available if you want to check that out in more detail. Now, I only had 20 minutes, and I'm very sure I've gone over 20 minutes. And here, this was probably going to be like another 10-minute slide. These are all the questions you should be asking your manufacturer. I don't really have time to explain the reasoning why you should be asking these questions, but you might want to take a photo of this slide. But the other thing you can do is I have another video on this called Top 10 Questions You Must Ask Your Suppliers, which is also on YouTube. So you can search for that under the channel name Sourcing with Kian, and you will find these questions there, and I explain it in a lot more detail. Sorry, 20 minutes is quite short, but I just wanted to give you as much as possible in this limited time frame. So if you do want more info, you can connect with me on Facebook or on the channel or on Instagram, and get more information on these topics. And here's a nice little banner for that channel, a nice little banner for the Facebook group. And then here are my personal contact details as well, if you just want to take a photo of this and connect with me later. I hope you guys got some value from that presentation. Apologies, I went super fast, but the main things I really wanted to cover was what's happening right now in China due to Corona, and what does the future of sourcing look like, and then what we need to do in order to make the most of that. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. It was an absolute pleasure to be with you guys, and safe. I hope you're safe wherever you are in the world. It was nice to see you again, and be in touch, and I'll see you guys soon. All the best.